Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Friday, November 1st, 2024. What could happen at the Supreme Court under Harris and Trump? The upcoming election, less than a week away, could reshape the U.S. Supreme Court, or not, depending on retirements, deaths, or other unforeseen events. The only certainty is political struggle. Depending on who wins the presidential election and control of the Senate, the current 6-3 conservative supermajority could remain the same, be trimmed to 5-4, or expand to even larger and more lopsided conservative majority. The public, for most part, understands that if there is a Supreme Court vacancy, the president nominee will generally reflect the president's views. But there is a genuine possibility that if the Senate is controlled by the opposition party, the open seat will remain unfilled, not for months, but for years. Indeed, there is also a real possibility that lower court seats will go unfilled, unless there is a significant backroom horse trading. In short, with power split between the White House and the Senate, there could be unprecedented gridlock on judicial nominations that extends all the way up to the Supreme Court and down to the appellate and even district courts. The Merrick Garland treatment in recent years, Republicans have wielded their power in unprecedented ways to prevent a president's Supreme Court nominee from being confirmed. When conservative Justice Antonin Scalia died unexpectedly in 2016, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell immediately announced that no Obama nominee would be considered at all prior to the election that was nearly a year away. Obama went ahead anyway, figuring that old norms would prevail if the nominee was a respected and centrist judge, someone acceptable to both Democrats and Republicans. Judge Merrick Garland seemed the best fit, but Garland didn't even get a hearing, much less a vote. 4 years later, after the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Senate Republicans put the pedal to the metal just weeks before the election, rapidly pushing through the confirmation of Judge, now Justice, Amy Coney Barrett. This year, conservatives are just as determined to keep or expand their 6-3 Supreme Court majority. So what happens if Kamala is elected president, but the Senate flips to Republican control? We'll give you the Merrick Garland treatment, says conservative scholar Josh Blackman, a professor at South Texas College of Law, Houston. We'll have the seat open for 3 or 4 years, he says. The Trump win, a Democratic Senate. Would the reverse happen if Trump is elected, but the Senate remains in Democratic hands? Democrats like to think of themselves as more responsible than Republicans. But the pressures would be enormous to do unto the Republicans what they did to the Democrats. Republicans essentially crossed the Rubicon in 2016. With the Garland nomination, said Harvard Law professor Noah Feldman, who has written extensively about the court's history. Given that we're in a world of controversial, revolutionary decisions, neither party would be likely to give a positive vote to a nominee of the president from the opposite party, he said. NYU law professor Bob Boer, who served as White House counsel for 2 years in the Obama administration, notes that institutional norms aren't necessarily permanent. The whole notion that a certain process has to be respected, regardless of the potential impact on one party or another, he says. It's not a norm if it doesn't command general adherence anymore. So what if Trump is elected and the Senate flips, as expected, to Republican control? The only thing then standing between nominating and confirming a new Trump-appointed justice would be 2 moderate Republican senators, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine. If the Republican margin in the Senate is 52-48, their votes aren't needed. J.D. Vance would cast the tie-breaking vote as vice president, even if Murkowski and Collins voted against the nominee. So what recourse would the Democrats have in a situation like that? How would they fight a Trump nomination? After all, there is no filibuster anymore to block a vote. Democrats abolished the filibuster for lower court nominations in 2011. In response to Republicans routinely blocking judicial nominations, Republicans then abolished the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations in 2017, after Trump was elected and nominated Neil Gorsuch to fill the seat of the GOP leader McConnell had held open after Scalia's death. Democrats are only candid about this when speaking not for attribution, as one put it. We would largely be left with the politics of personal destruction, investigating every aspect of the nominee's life to find something that is disqualifying. Unforeseen circumstances. Of course, right now, there is no vacant seat at the Supreme Court. Although the deaths of Justices Scalia and Ginsburg prove that nothing is certain, they are far older than any member of the current court. Scalia was just days shy of turning 80, and Ginsburg was 87. In contrast, the oldest members of the Supreme Court are also among the most conservative. Justice Clarence Thomas, 76, and Justice Samuel Alito is 74. Following by liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor, 70, and Chief Justice Roberts, 69. Some of the most politically active conservative thinkers would like to see Thomas and Alito step down for younger conservative judges who could serve for many decades longer and move the conservative needle even further to the right. They see their farm team, the ultra-conservative, on the Supreme Court, including the men they once clerked for. But those who know Thomas and Alito well are adamant that neither man would leave the court at this point. Several NPR spoke to would only speak candidly on condition of anonymity. What would he do? Go home and fly flags with his wife at the beach? Said one Alito ally ally, adding that the court is Alito's life. As for Thomas, his friends and former clerks say he would see retirement as caving into his critics and being driven off the court. So if there is no retirement or unexpected health crisis, the court could remain as is. A period of dysfunction. That leaves the lower courts, which gets less attention than the Supreme Court, but decide many more cases. During the last year at the Obama administration, when Republicans controlled the Senate, not one nominee to a regional appeals court was confirmed. Though 10 trial court judges, a tiny fraction of vacancies were. The result was that the day Trump was sworn in there was 105 judicial vacancies to fill. Professor Blackman expects that if Harris is elected and Republicans control the Senate, something similar could happen for a full 4 years. They may just stop confirming any lower judges, he says. Other conservatives think that it's far too dire a prediction. They expect that, especially in states where both senators are Democrats, there would be horse trading and a deal that allocates judicial seats. Basically, the Democrats get one, for example, for every 2 or 3 GOP nominees. Harvard's Feldman says he sees no light at the end of the tunnel when the parties are split, with the president of one party and a Senate controlled by the other party. But dysfunction, he thinks, he could lead to change eventually. We might have what I call the incredible shrinking Supreme Court, he says, adding that if we have divided government and we have justices naturally retiring or dying and they don't get replaced, we could go down to 8, to 7, to 6, and eventually the public might start to notice and complain about it. And then some sort of compromise formation might be reached. That said, he acknowledges a process that could take 15 or 20 years. If he's right, the end of dysfunction is a long way off. In the meantime, Justice Clarence Thomas, the most senior and seasoned Supreme Court justice, provides a lesson of longevity and power. If he serves another 3 years, he will break Justice William O. Douglas's 36-year record for length of service on the court. Indeed, even sooner, when the next president is sworn in this January, Thomas will be making decisions that directly affect his 11th presidential administration. Enforcement was considered discriminatory. Now, New Yorkers can jaywalk legally. Just about everyone on the streets of New York seems to jaywalk. But now it's no longer illegal. Supporters of the measure to decriminalize jaywalking said enforcement was often discriminatory. Let's be real. Jaywalking is a way of life in New York City. It's how people navigate our city, said Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse of Brooklyn. The lead sponsor of the legislation said in a statement to NPR, penalizing residents for crossing the street as they go about their day is outdated and unnecessary, especially given how disproportionately these penalties have been enforced, she said. Jaywalking, officially became legal last weekend, a month after the New York City Council passed a bill to stop police from issuing tickets to pedestrians who stepped outside the lines, a crime that used to carry a penalty of up to $250. Police officers have told me they prefer to spend their time on real safety concerns, not handing out jaywalking tickets, Narcisse said. This law frees them up to focus on more critical community issues, making better use for their efforts and resources. New York police have long faced criticisms for stopping Black and Hispanic pedestrians at a far steeper rate than white citizens. Gothamist reported that in the first 6 months of 2024, the New York Police Department issued 786 pedestrian-related summonses, 77% of which went to Black or Hispanic people. We're seeing discriminatory enforcement of this, but the other thing is that it's not keeping us any safer, said Council Member Tiffany Caban of Queens, who was one of the bill's sponsors. The Legal Aid Society, which has long been critical of the jaywalking penalties, praised the City Council for getting the law passed and said it would be monitoring the NYPD to ensure they respected the new legislation. Decriminalizing jaywalking in New York City is long overdue and eradicates a mechanism that the New York City Police Department has for decades employed as a pretext to stop, question, and frisk New Yorkers, especially those from communities of color, the Legal Aid Society said in a statement. With this legislation now codified, we hope that both the Adams administration and the City Council will continue to abolish relic laws that serve no public safety purpose and only ensnare people in the criminal legal system, the group added. Bird flu has been found in a pig for the first time in the U.S. A 2005 electron microscope image shows an avian influenza, a H5N1 virion. A pig at an Oregon farm was found to have bird flu, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said Wednesday. New York. A pig at an Oregon farm was found to have bird flu, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced Wednesday. It's the first time the virus has been detected in the U.S. and raises concern about bird flu potential to become a human threat. The infection happened at a backyard farm in Cook County, in the center of the state, where different animals share water and are housed together. Last week, poultry at the farm were found to have the virus, and testing this week found that one of the farm's 5 pigs had become infected. The farm was put under quarantine, and all 5 pigs were euthanized, so additional testing could be done. It's not a commercial farm. And U.S. agriculture officials said there is no concern about the safety of the nation's pork supply. But finding bird flu in a pig raises worries that the virus may be hitting a stepping stone to becoming a bigger threat to people, said Jennifer Nuzzo, a Brown University pandemic researcher. Pigs can be infected with multiple types of flu, and the animals can play a role in making bird viruses better adapted to humans, she explained. The 2009 H1N1 flu pandemic had swine origins, Nuzzo noted. If we're trying to stay ahead of this virus and prevent it from becoming a threat to the broader public, knowing if it's in the pigs is crucial, Nuzzo said. The USDA has conducted genetic testing on the farm's poultry and has not seen any mutations that suggest the virus is gaining an increased ability to spread in people. That indicates the current risk to the public remains low, officials said. A different strain of the bird flu virus has been reported in pigs outside the U.S. in the past, and it did not trigger a human pandemic. It isn't a one-to-one relationship, where pigs get infected with viruses and they make pandemics, said Troy Sutton, a Penn State researcher who studies flu viruses in animals. This version of bird flu, known as type AH5N1, has been spreading widely in the U.S. among wild birds, poultry, cows, and a number of other animals. Its persistence increases the chances that people will be exposed and potentially catch it, officials said. It isn't necessarily surprising that a pig infection was detected, given that so many other animals have had the virus, experts said. The Oregon pig infection is noteworthy, but does it change the calculation of the threat level? No, it doesn't, Sutton said. If the virus starts spreading more widely among pigs, and if there are ensuing human infections, then we're going to be more concerned. So far, this year, nearly 40 human cases have been reported in California, Colorado, Washington, Michigan, Texas, and Missouri, with mostly mild symptoms, including eye redness reported. All but one of the people had been in contact with infected animals. An Elon Musk-backed political group is posting fake Kamala Harris ads on Facebook. 3 images posted by the group, Progress 28, on Facebook, claiming to be ads for Kamala Harris, but misrepresenting her current positions. Did you see those Kamala Harris ads on Facebook? Be careful, they might have duped you. A series of ads that look like they are from the Harris campaign are spreading falsehoods about her current policy positions, including that she wants to institute a mandatory gun buyback program and give Medicare benefits and driver's license to undocumented immigrants. One of the ads asserts Harris wants to ban fracking. None of this is true. The Facebook ads have collectively been viewed millions of times in swing of states, posted by an account dubbed Progress to 2028, a name suggesting a liberal counterpart to the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. But there is no such Harris-aligned initiative as Progress 2028. And the ads are bankrolled by Building America's Future and dark money group funded by billionaire Elon Musk and others. According to campaign tracking sites Open Secrets, and it's part of more than $100 million Musk has spent to help re-elect former President Donald Trump campaign finance record shows. The ad buys are publicly available. In an ad library database hosted by Meta, Facebook's parent company. It shows that so far, the group has posted 13 of these ads as of Wednesday afternoon. Meta tallied the ads as having received 8.7 million impressions, although some viewers may have seen the same ads multiple times. Experts told NPR that there is nothing illegal about the ads, since the First Amendment protects the political speech, even though it contains lies. But the messages have the potential to lead voters astray, just as days before the election. The tactic isn't new, said Kathleen Hall Jameson, director of the Annenberg Public Policy Center, on the strategy of using trickery to smear a political opponent. Its political reach and impact are: social media greatly expanded the capacity of well-financed, skilled ad buyers to micro-target susceptible, undecided voters without risking backlash from those likely to recognize the deception. Robert Wiseman, co-president of the nonprofit watchdog group Public Citizen, said that in this case, the disclosure at the bottom of the ad stating the advertisement was paid for by Progress 2028 fuels the deceit. It truthfully discloses who is paying for the ad, but the entity sounds like a Harris-supporting organization when it is not, said Wiseman, who has called on Meta to remove the ads. Meta spokesperson Ryan Daniels would not comment directly on the Progress 2028 ads, which were first highlighted by the tech news site 404 Media. But the ads do not appear to run afoul of Meta's advertising rules, which mostly require that the entity paying for the ad be disclosed. The rules also ban premature claims of victory and ads that question the legitimacy of the election process. Daniels said deceptive political ads have been deployed across the media landscape for decades, adding that Meta's ad library, where the reach of ads can be viewed, brings a level of transparency to political advertising that far exceeds that of any other platform where these ads have run. As it did in 2020, Meta will not allow new political advertisements to be placed the week leading up to the November 5th election. But political ads can still appear on the company's platforms if purchased before the week of the election. After November 5th, political ads on Facebook and Instagram can resume, which is a change from 2020, when such advertising was banned post-election. Google, meanwhile, will block election ads after November 5th to tamp down on any falsehoods that may spread in the event voters are still being counted then. Wiseman says this is not enough. Meta is disdaining responsibility for permitting this deception, but Meta is 100% responsible. Wiseman said, yes, there is a First Amendment right to lie, but that does not constrain Meta's management of advertisements on its platform. Open Secrets found that Progress 2028 also sent text messages to potential voters making false claims about Harris's policy positions with a link to the Progress 2028 webpage, which gives the impression it is a group backing Harris for president when the opposite is true. The site states that when Kamala Harris takes office, we will have a never-before-seen opportunity to enact sweeping reforms that will ensure that equity across every corner of America is finally a reality. Before launching into a series of policy proposals Harris does not in fact endorse in the 2024 race. Building America's Future and a consulting group tied to Progress 2028 did not return requests for comment. Wiseman with Public Citizen said mischaracterizing a candidate's stances is a common political messaging tactic, but outright lies framed as if they are coming from the candidate goes beyond brazen distortion. Whether they are impactful is another question, but they are highly likely to deceive, he said. They seem real, and the only way to recognize they are not is if you have a highly informed voter who knows the claims are untrue.